y'all, Jamie from Country Diggers here. Today we're going to do the last installment of Princesses Behaving Badly. I still got some in the works, but this will be the last one for a while. This one's going to be on Clara Ward. She's the princess who ran off with a gypsy and a waiter and a station manager, okay? And she's interesting, so stay tuned. Clara Ward, the princess who ran off with a gypsy and a waiter and a station manager. June 17th, 1873 to December 9th, 1916. Gossip pages on 2 continents. Paris, 1896. A beautiful young vicarious princess and her much older husband are seated at a smoky motel, a notorious nightclub, patronized by the wealthy and fashionable. Despite the November chill, it's almost too warm inside. The princess's round white shoulders are nearly bare, her ample bosom only just contained by her corseted dress. Oh my, are we getting into porn here? Okay. Bored, she toys idly with her glass of champagne. As the band strikes up a haunting gypsy melody, the keening wail of a violin pierces the air. The violinist, a small man with black hair and dark flashing eyes, sizes up the audience as he moves through it. The princess catches his attention. He walks towards her, playing more intensely. She smiles. 10 days later, the gypsy violinist and the princess flee Paris, leaving behind her indifferent husband and 2 young children as the pressures of high society. It wasn't the first time this princess made headlines across the globe, and it certainly wouldn't be the last. An American in Paris. The Princess de Carman Chimley, also known as Clara Ward, wasn't born a princess, but she was as close as most Americans got. Her father, Captain Eber Ward, known as the King of the Lakes, was a wealthy shipping tycoon and lumber industry magnate, Michigan's first millionaire. He had scandalously married Clara's mother after his first wife and mother of his 7 children divorced him on grounds of serial infidelity. Clara was born in Detroit in 1873. Her father died when she was barely 18 months old, leaving most of his $6 million fortune to her mother and their children together. Pointedly, he left much less to the children from his first marriage. Clara's mother moved the little girl and her brother to New York, and then after marrying a Canadian to Toronto, when Clara was 15 years old, she was sent to a London finishing school. Actually, several finishing schools, according to a contemporary newspaper. Clara's reputation in London, Clara's reputation in London soon became anything but what a mother could desire, and she was obliged to find a new school. One story claimed that she disappeared from her school in Paris and was found 18 days later in the garret of a starving student. Another claimed she escaped school by hitching a ride on the roof of her mother's carriage. Yet another account describes how Clara was sent to an Italian convent school where she shocked the good nuns and had to be removed. Take these stories with a big block of salt. Turn-of-the-century newspapers were not exactly devoted to accuracy. But though she had earned herself a reputation before being launched on the polite society of Europe, Clara's wildness would by no means get in the way of the good old-fashioned husband hunting her mother had in store. Clara's sizable fortune, at least $50,000 a year from her father's estate, and voluptuous Victorian figure made her an instant sensation. Lips like a pomegranate and the heart of a saint, one enthralled contemporary exclaimed. Though neither of these things rings true. As beautiful as she is wealthy, as another paper reported, sounds about right. When Clara met Prince Joseph D. Carman Chinley, I think that's Chinley, son of a Belgian foreign affairs minister, he was about $100,000 in debt and owned a crumbling chateau in desperate need of repair. He was not, it appears, a handsome man. He was 15 years older than Clara, and his personality barely merited a mention in even the most gossipy newspaper reports about the couple. But he had a title, and that's what mattered. He proposed, and the two were married in Paris on May 20th, 1890. Clara, wearing a $10,000 dress, was only 17 years old. She had just become the Princess de Carmen Chinley, one of only a handful of American women to gain a royal title. The newly minted princess and her husband spent their time traveling among his estates, the Belgian court, the Riviera, Paris, and every other fashionable European hotspot. Though she had a daughter, the Countess Marie, in 1891, followed by a son in 1894, rumors persisted that Clara was involved with other men and that the prince didn't care enough to stop her. Life as a princess wasn't all it was cracked up to be. I think that's what Meghan Markle is experiencing right now. I don't know. Speaking to the press after her divorce, it's probably not a spoiler to reveal the couple did separate. Clara claimed that she had no choice but to leave the Belgian court after King Leopold II showered her with attention, neglected his other guests in favor of her beauty, and made her a social pariah. Sure, she said she encouraged him, but in doing so, she earned herself the wrath of the court, especially the Queen. Clara's humiliation was complete when she stood alone on the steps of the great staircase leading into the palace conservatories. As I entered the great hall, every woman there turned her back or gazed at me contemptuously. She warned other American women not to be dazzled by the promise of a title. Few American-bred women could feel themselves really happy in the high European, especially continental society, she declared. No longer welcomed at court, Clara and the prince spent time in Paris, which was then in the grips of a fin de siècle passion. I don't know what that means. But anyway, it was a passion fueled by scandalous dancing, champagne, and Art Nouveau. Claire seized upon life with reckless abandon, making a name for herself as the wildest American that side of the Atlantic. All this ruckus living put her on a collision course with a scandal involving the affections of a Hungarian gypsy fiddler named Rigo Gypsy. On that November night in 1896, a dementive man with a massive handlebar mustache, and much pomaded hair, Rigo was not classically handsome. The Chicago Tribune sneered that he was a monkey-faced brute, and a Scottish newspaper wrote that he is said to be pock-pitted, of small stature, and everyone wondered what she saw in him. He was also already married. None of that mattered to Clara. The first night she saw Rigo, she turned from her husband to smile at him and never looked back. 10 days later, according to Rigo, the pair ran off together like gypsies in the dead of the night. The press went crazy. Papers across Europe, Britain, and America carried news of the princess's flight. Postcard pinup. Armed with his wife's notoriety, Prince Joseph won a divorce by January 1897, less than 2 months after Clara abandoned him and their children at the hearing. At the hearing, which saw all of fashionable Brussels fighting to get into the courtroom, but no Clara. Even her lawyer declared her a fiery, untamed steed, with a wild, savage, eccentric nature. The prince retained custody, and Clara was forced to pay him child support. She was never allowed to see her children again. Clara had fallen so far so fast that there would never be any going back. Not that she cared. As she declared in a statement made at the divorce hearing, "I am done with it all. I wanted to be free. I am at least out of the rotten atmosphere in which modern society lives. It does not want me, and I do not want it. So we are quits." The loss of her children may have been collateral damage in Clara's quest for freedom, though in the absence of any letters or comment, we cannot know for sure how she felt. Whatever her true feelings, she certainly threw herself into her new pure pathetic lifestyle with gusto. The first place the illicit couple went was the mountainside cottage of Rigo's mother, a far cry from the royal court and Parisian nightclubs the princess had known. Supposedly, Clara was so grateful to the Hungarian woman that she bought the mountain and gave Rigo's mother a pearl necklace which she hung on a nail by the fireplace. Once back in Paris, Clara's scandalous behavior had gotten her ostracized from respectable society. But the former royal had money, and money fixes everything. Yeah, right. When the local worthies succeeded in pressuring hotels and innkeepers into refusing to rent her rooms, she simply got herself a house. She took to riding a bicycle down the boulevards, clad in bloomers and low socks like a man. She smoked cigarettes in public and was featured frequently in articles in the foreign press laminating the city's moral decline. Emboldened by this most bohemian of lifestyles, in April 1897, Clara began earning money posing in skin-tight, flesh-colored costumes on the stages of the Moulin Rouge and Folies Bergère. She called her art poses plastiques. She was accompanied by Rigo, playing the violin and dancing around her like an organ grinder's monkey. Somehow Clara managed to scandalize even the worldly Parisians. Her first show was canceled after police learned that friends of the prince were planning to show up to pelt her with live rabbits, rotten eggs, and other equally objectionable missiles. According to one newspaper report, Paris might have been outraged, but locals still ponied up to see Clara Ward, sort of naked, and as did art lovers in other European capitals. When the couple played in Berlin, they reportedly brought in $6,800 in 1 month, about $181,000 today. Clara also posed for postcard pictures wearing her Poses Plastiques bodysuit, with her wavy brown hair tumbling past her rather sturdy bottom and topped by a crown seemingly fashioned out of light bulbs and coat hangers. More scandal ensured. In August 1897, her ex-husband demanded that police raid several photographic shops and seize pictures of Clara, and according to the newspapers, all sorts of costume. Clara's naughty photos were reportedly banned in the German Empire because Kaiser Wilhelm II found her beauty so disturbing. That's probably an exaggeration, but it is true that people were arrested for peddling and mailing the taboo images of the ex-princess. Unlucky in love. This was about the time that Henry de Toulouse-Lautrec, the famous Bellesque painter of prostitutes, created a lithograph of Clara and Rigo. The two are sitting in an orchestra pit in a Paris nightclub. Clara's hair an impossible yellow, Rigo mustached and swarthy, called Ideal Princière, whatever, these French words, anyway. It captured them at their most fashionable, amorous, and interesting. Things pretty much went downhill from there. The couple lived in sin until 1898, when Rigo was finally granted a divorce, setting him free to marry Clara, which he then did. Their passion was intense. Supposedly during a trip to Japan, they had each other's portraits tattooed on their biceps. Clara showed her devotion by spending ridiculous amounts of money on her new husband. A grinning Rigo told reporters that she bought him a menage of baby elephants, lions, and tigers just to amuse him, as well as a new violin and a casket full of jewels. They traveled across Europe and spent 2 years in Egypt, literally building palaces wherever they wished. Eventually, all this prestigious spending came to the attention of Clara's mother. Scandalized by her daughter's behavior, she was even more worried about the state of the family finances. So she moved to have Clara cut off, asking that the wayward ex-princess's uncle be appointed conservator of her estate. In 1898, the court agreed, and Clara was given a yearly income of $12,000, nearly $2 million in today's money, out of which $3,000 went to her ex-husband to pay for the children's living expenses. But Clara's spending continued unabated. In 1901, she was officially declared a spendthrift after her uncle was forced to dip into her capital to pay off her debts. He revealed that over the course of 7 years, Clara had spent $750,000, about $20 million today. The bulk of it flittered away in company with the sparkling-eyed Rigo, according to the Detroit Free Press. Meanwhile, life with Rigo wasn't all zoo animals and palaces. The two fought often, loudly and publicly. In January 1897, right about the time her husband was divorcing her in Brussels, Clara and the Gypsy violinist had a violent quarrel at the Milan Hotel. Stunning guests with their shouting and screaming and door slamming. Clara left Rigo in the lurch, paying only her share of the bill and putting him, as the New York Times noted, in an awkward position. Little else is recorded about their life together, but it couldn't have been easy. Even loose society rejected them in 1902. The couple was viciously booed at the Folies Bergère, where Rigo was performing with his orchestra. The strain may have been too much for their marriage. They were divorced by 1904, and Rigo moved to America. He claimed that Clara left him because she had taken up with a grubby railway worker. At least part of Rigo's statement appears to be true, because in the same year of her divorce, Clara married her third husband, Gillespie Peppino Riccardia, was a waiter on a train, or a baggage clerk, or a conveyor of an Italian tourist agency, or a manager of a railway station of the Mount Versailles funicular, whatever that is. His professional situation remains unclear. What is certain is that he was very good looking, known as the handsomest man in Naples. Throughout her new marriage, Clara remained a mainstay of society and gossip column reports, with varying degrees of accuracy. The press reported that she was performing on vaudeville stages in America. She wasn't. Had been declared insane by her family. Nope. Was completely cut off from her family's fortune. Not exactly. And had been marrying and divorcing. Yep. In 1910, her unerring bad luck in men made headlines once again. Clara declared, once again. Riccardia left her, claiming she was having an affair with the butler. Clara declared herself innocent, saying, "These Neapolitans, I guess, are so jealous." The pair was officially divorced by July 1911. Defiant to the end, Clara wasn't lonely for long. Upon her divorce from Riccardia, she supposedly said, "I cannot be alone. I am unhappy like that. I shall marry yet once again." She did, although even less is known about her fourth husband. It seems he was one Signor Albano Castillo, or Casalata, or Casalado, okay, whatever, and was possibly a butler or a chauffeur or a station manager or an artist. The first her family heard of the man she'd been married to for at least 5 years was when he telegrammed to say that Clara had died of pneumonia in December 9th, 1916, in Paducah, or Padua, Italy. She was only 43. Reports claimed that Clara was penniless, but in fact the money that had buoyed her through her scandalous life never deserted her, even when nearly all of her husband's family and friends did. Her $1.2 million estate was split among her children, Ricardo, and a cousin in America. Her last husband was not included in the will, which had been drawn up in 1904. Clara's life was a study in rebellion. One paper declared, "From her earliest youth, Clara Ward seems to have had a loathsome desire to scandalize the world, to break down all barriers of convention, and be at least as bizarre and unusual for one woman to be." Another wrote that she would say the devil stood sponsor when Clara Ward was born, and that she was always more or less proud of her godfather. Okay. Her fabulous embroidered obituary in the Detroit News laminated, "She died a woman without illusions. She had gone the pace. She lived intensely, a slave of her desires. She died an outcast, an old woman of 43 years, just when she would have been in her prime." Clara did burn bright and fast, and she did it on her own terms. Talking about her flight from the Belgian court, she once said, "I defied them, and as I have all my life defied everyone." She certainly did, for better or for worse. All right, hope y'all enjoyed, and as I said, that's the last of the Princesses Behaving Badly series for a while. I may do more later, but hope y'all enjoyed this series, and see you later. Bye.